What's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new MonsterArts Godzilla vs. Kong. And I'm excited about this figure because I am a big fan of gorilla type characters. I'm not really into Godzilla too much, but I did enjoy the movie Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought it was kind of cool, and I like how they portrayed King Kong in there. So I was looking forward to getting figures from that movie. And when I first saw some initial in-hand pictures of this figure, I was slightly disappointed because of how small he was, but then I kind of got over that, and now at this point I'm excited about this figure. So let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the packaging. I love this box art here with the orange and the blues and the pinks and the purples. It does look really cool. Across the front here it does say Godzilla vs. Kong, and then obviously we get a shot of the figure right there. Down here we got a bunch of bullshit. On the side of the box it does say Kong from Godzilla vs. Kong 2021, and then on the back is where we actually get the window so we could see the figure. And yeah, as you can see, he's tiny, but it is what it is. And then right here, we get a look at Kong doing his thing. We have him in a couple of different poses. Down here, there's a bunch of other stuff. And that's about it for the packaging. It does look cool. It's collector friendly and all that good stuff. But enough about this pretty box. Let's go ahead and talk about King Kong.
And so, here is right out of the packaging.
And I'm definitely having mixed feelings about this figure. There's a lot that I like here. He's fun to mess around with. He's got some good articulation, and I think he looks good. But man, I am getting incredibly frustrated with this figure because of the way that the joints come together and the way that some of the things fall off so easily. There's a lot here that's really pissing me off, and it's making it hard for me to enjoy this figure. But let's go ahead and talk about all those negative things first. We'll get them out of the way, and then we'll talk about the good stuff here. So first off, I really dislike the way they did the upper thighs. As you can see here, it's like a loose piece that sits on top of the joint, and it just kind of feels cheap. It just kind of flops around. And it just, I don't know, it looks bad and it doesn't feel like a high quality figure. And just like take a look at what we have going on here. This is like a big empty hole. Look at all the room they have in there. So I'm not sure what's up with that. I think I have a solution to kind of make it work. And we'll see if I'm able to do that. But yeah, just right out of the box, the way they did the thighs is like, it's whack. I don't like it at all. And then another thing that's really driving me crazy about this figure is some of the joints are really, really loose. Like, actually back to this leg here. Look how loose this is. Like, that is whack.
Hold him his head and shake and then you can kind of see it.
Look at that. Kind of makes it hard for him to stand up. Oh, well there. I mean, actually that was okay. But earlier, it was making it really hard for him to stand up. And so I'm going to have to do something to fix that. But, yeah, that makes me mad. And then his hand keeps falling off really easily. His head keeps falling off really easily. And then when you're kind of messing around with this figure, if you're not careful of how you move certain joints, they just kind of pop out of place. Especially with the legs. It's really the legs where I have the most problems. But if you try to bend his leg and you're not like conscious of what's going on, it just kind of comes apart. It just pops apart. So again, that's really, really frustrating. At first, I was having a lot of issues with this figure. And then I kind of got used to what I'm supposed to do with it. And it's been okay since, but at the same time, sometimes I just kind of stop thinking about it and I'll just mess with the figure because I'm enjoying it. And the next thing you know, the legs are falling off, the hands are falling off, the head's falling off. I did notice that with the alternate hands and the alternate heads, they are a little tighter. So I don't think I'll have to worry about those. But yeah, I got to do something about these legs because that's really the only thing that's keeping me from enjoying this figure as much as I would otherwise. Look at that. Man, that sucks. So, and I know a lot of other people have had problems with their Kong figures, and it's been different problems, you know? Like, I know Rick, aka Art with Toys, had like an issue where his arms were falling apart and he couldn't get them back together, and it's pretty much just like a defective figure. But yeah, that sucks, you know, because this is a cool looking figure. But it's also by Bandai. MonsterArts is usually like high quality stuff. So, you know, a lot of people don't like the size, but I could excuse the size. But it's really hard to look past all the other issues, you know. And these are all things that I could probably fix, and I will, because there's enough here that I like that I want to get the figure in good condition and just enjoy it. But man, it kind of sucks that we have to do all that for such an expensive figure. Look at this hip thing, man. I really don't like that. Look at this leg. And it's weird because it hasn't been loose this whole time. I've had the figure open for quite a while. I've been messing with it and doing my thing, and the leg wasn't that loose before. It was kind of loose. I could move it with no problems, but it wasn't so loose that it was just falling around. And another thing that I want to discuss very quickly is, you know, like this joint was loose, but it was pretty much the only joint that was loose. Every other joint on this figure was super, super tight. I could barely move his torso at first. I could barely move the arms. When I did, they would just squeak super loud. I kind of felt like I was gonna break something, but then I went ahead and put drops of oil into all those joints, and then once I did that, everything was cool. But yeah, so super tight joints and then super loose joints. Like, what part of the game is that? I'm not sure how that happens. And you know what? To be honest, that's pretty much all I have to say in regards to the negative aspects of this figure. Everything else I like. I think he looks great, and once like the joints are all good, he's going to be a lot of fun to play with because he does have really good articulation. I think they did a really good job with the sculpt. The face sculpt is nice. I will say that the alternate head sculpt looks better, but this one does look pretty good. It does have some nice details. I like that the eyes are a different color, and it just gives the figure a little bit of depth, you know. I think it looks great, and then I like the way that the hair looks, how it's different colors and all that good stuff. It's very well sculpted, really nice looking paint. I like the scars on the chest too. Those look really good. And I like all the different shades of brown that we have in here. I like that the hair is a lighter color than like the skin areas. I think that's really dope. And again, I think it looks very accurate to the movie. So they captured the stature. I think they did a really good job of capturing the proportions from the movie. So it does feel very accurate to the film. But yeah, I think that he looks great. I just got to fix some of these issues that I'm having with him. Kong does come with a bunch of cool stuff, including an additional head. And the alternate head that he came with came out really nice. I love the screaming expression on his face. It definitely looks like he's ready for battle. He looks pretty pissed off. I like the sculpting work around the eyes and in the mouth. Check out like the teeth and the tongue and everything. I think this head sculpt came out nice, and it's definitely my favorite out of the two. They did a good job with that one. Aside from that, he comes with multiple different sets of hands. First off, we have a pair of fists, and then we have a set of open hands. And then we also have a set of hands that kind of have his knuckles down, so you can make it look like he's walking with his knuckles on the ground, so that's cool. And then he does come with a set of gripping hands that could be used to hold on to his axe. And the battle axe that he comes with is really nice. I love the sculpting work on here, especially on the bone handle, because they put a bunch of texture and detail in there, and it looks very lifelike. So I think that came out nice. And then the blade is awesome too. So yeah, they did a good job with this battle axe. I think this looks great, and I think he looks awesome holding it. Alright, so now for some size comparisons. Here we have the SH MonsterArts King Kong alongside the NECA King Kong, but this one has been repainted by my homie Artman Customs on Instagram. Be sure to check him out. I'll leave a link to his Instagram in the description below. He killed this repaint, gave it to me as a gift, so shout out to Nico. Thanks, man. But yeah, look how crazy the NECA King Kong looks next to the SH MonsterArts. It's insane. And then over here we have the Mezco King Kong, which is a good figure. He just doesn't have all that much articulation. But we really have to appreciate what NECA gives us for the price that they charge for their figures. Because I think this guy was like 30 bucks or something. And it's better than both of these figures. The Mezco one wasn't that expensive. I think he was only 40 bucks or something, then plus shipping. But the Figure Arts one cost me 90, or MonsterArts cost me 90. So when you think about like NECA at $30 is doing better gorilla figures than everybody else, it's pretty crazy. We definitely got to salute them. Man, this guy's tiny. But again, I could get over the height because I appreciate having different sizes of gorillas in my collection. I think that's cool, and they'll definitely work for like a Caesar army or whatever. So I'm not really too upset about his size, to be honest, but I could understand why this would be a big turnoff for a lot of people. And then next up we have him alongside the NECA Dawn of Planet of the Apes Caesar and the NECA Maurice from Planet of the Apes. And man, NECA's been killing it with apes figures for a long time. I would love to see them revisit this version of Caesar, because even though I love this figure, it's one of my favorite figures in my entire collection, he could definitely benefit from an update, especially if they gave him the new style of arms that they've been doing on their figures. I still love this figure, always will, but it'd be nice to see an update. But man, yeah, even next to these guys, Kong looks tiny. So yeah, that's kind of sad. And then here we have him alongside the Nada Toys James figure, and then a Odious on a Mezco body. And even though Kong does look a little funny next to other gorillas and apes figures, he does look kind of good next to human-sized figures as just a normal gorilla. So if you want to do some shots of like somebody interacting with the gorilla for some reason, this guy might appeal to you, because I think he pretty much scales perfectly as like a normal, actual, realistic gorilla when you put him next to human-sized characters. So I think that kind of works. And then of course here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cap.
And here's Kong next to the Disney toy box, Soooooo Mickey, and the Fawn Flute by Plunderling.
And Kong does have a really good amount of articulation, but it's very frustrating to handle this figure because the joints pop apart, and then we have all these weird floating pieces, and just all kinds of little things that make it unpleasant to actually play with this figure. And that's a big thing for me. So again, it's kind of, I'm having mixed emotions because I could see the potential, but then when I start to play with them, I don't have all that much fun because weird things happen. But let's go ahead and get into it. Just so you know, all the joints are pretty much double ball peg joints, so I think that was a pretty interesting approach, and it definitely allows for some pretty good movement on a lot of these joints. But let's go ahead and start off with the head. So first off, the head does rotate like this. You can get his head to go to the side to about right there. He does have movement at the head and at the neck, so you get some pretty good side to side, as you could see. So that's pretty nice. He can look up to about right there. And then he could look down to about right there. So pretty good stuff at the head. Obviously, he's a gorilla, so his head is a weird shape. But I think considering the shape of his head, we get some pretty good movement out of it. So I'm happy with that. Again, I just wish that the head wouldn't fall off so easy. Most of the time when I'm messing with this, the head pops right off, but it seems to be holding on pretty good right now. So good movement at the head and the neck. And then for the torso, we do have a diaphragm joint, and using that, we get some pretty good side to side. He can swivel, and then it could crunch forward to right there, which is pretty decent. That's just at the diaphragm cut, and then it could go back to about right there. It can get a little frustrating to move his diaphragm around because he does have this piece in the midsection that just kind of floats around, but that's so that you could cover up the joints when you pose them around. So that's cool, but it just kind of gets in the way a little bit sometimes. And then what do we have going on here? Look at. And then he does have a ball joint at the waist, so we get a little twist out of that. But when the hips are up and they're not like dropped down, you don't really get a whole bunch of movement out of that. But when you drop the hips down, then you could get a little bit more out of it. So that's cool. So I like the torso. Got some good stuff going on there. Let me fix his back there. So nice movement at the torso. And then for the arms, he's got those double ball peg joints, so you could kind of rotate his shoulder a little bit. You could bring it up like that. You could drop him down a little bit. You definitely have to mess with it to get him to do what you want, but he's got some pretty good movement at the shoulders. I like these shoulder joints. And then his arms do go all the way around. They could come up only to about right there. So they do come up a pretty decent amount. He has swivel at the upper bicep, but the way they sculpted his shoulder fur, it kind of gets in the way a little bit. I don't know why they made that little lip, probably just to cover up the articulation, but then, you know, it kind of hinders it. And then he does, I don't really want to call these double jointed elbows, but I guess it kind of is. He's got double ball peg at the top part of it and then one at the bottom part, so using both of those, you could bend his elbow a pretty good amount. Then at the hand, we got the same thing, as you can see, so kind of shifts around and then you could swivel. So good stuff there. And then now for the legs, which are the most frustrating part of this figure. He can kick his leg up a pretty good amount, actually, so you could have him kick Godzilla in the face. Bam, there we go. That's pretty good, actually. Then you could bring his legs out to the side. So you could karate kick. What the? That's pretty good. And let's see, they could go back to right there. This little piece around his waist is soft plastic, so it doesn't get in the way too much, so that's cool. So pretty good movement at the hips. And then at the knees, he's got the same thing that he has at the elbows. So we have a double ball peg at the top and then one at the bottom. And you got to be careful with this because pretty much you have to be mindful of where like you're applying the pressure. Otherwise, it just pops out very easily. But if you know what you're doing, it could stay in place and you could get some pretty good bend using both of those. You just got to kind of mess with it and just be mindful of where you're putting the pressure so that it doesn't pop out. But yeah, that's pretty good. That's a good bend right there. Then at the foot, you can bring his foot forward to about right there. Look at another like shifting piece. There's like too many shifting pieces here. Look at, he's got two for his lower leg. One at the bottom, one at the top. And I figure they probably thought because all the fur is here, they could just get away with having these floating pieces here. But it's overkill in my opinion. But anyways, foot goes forward to right there, comes up to right there, and then they do rock side to side. And then he does have movement at the toe, or like the middle of the foot, I guess you could say. So yeah, pretty good stuff. Like, the amount of movement on the legs is nice, but there's just so much going on here that makes it unpleasant to handle. Like, look at this. So the leg pops off super easy. Then you have like this overlay piece. You have like this overlay piece. And then on the lower leg, you have like, look at all this. It's like, it's too much. It's too much going on. It gets in the way, and it's a mess to try to deal with. And I know that they were trying to hide all these points of articulation, and that is very cool, but it's got to be done gracefully, you know? This is just like thrown together and just like messy. But I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it so that I could enjoy playing with this figure, because I really do like a lot about it, and I am having fun messing around with them. But sometimes what it takes is, like, I'll pick up the figure and kind of forget about some of the issues. I'll start playing with it, things pop apart, and then I get all pissed off. Then I kind of relax and just think about, like, okay, I got to be careful here, got to be careful here. And then, you know, at that point, I have a lot of fun with it. But he does have some good movement. You could do some good stuff with it. Oh, there it goes again. Oh.
It's all like a puzzle.
I guess. That's one way to look at it.
It's a
positive.
It's a leg puzzle, but a really, really simple one.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, yeah, I guess if you want to look at it as a challenge like that, like a puzzle, but I don't want to look at it like that. So, yeah, it gets frustrating for things when they pop apart like this. Look, there goes his head.
Okay.
And I am gonna do some stuff to tighten up the joints and get them to stay a little bit better. I did do something on the one leg that was super loose, and as you can see, now it's not flopping around. So that makes me happy. But you could definitely get him into some cool poses. I like to make it look like he's just kind of sitting there, bored.
Eating pizza.
Bored eating pizza. Oh, see, there goes his leg again. I kind of wanted to show you guys a longer look just to show you like what happens, you know, some of my frustration. But yeah, look at that. It's definitely a cool looking figure. You can get him into like typical gorilla type of crawling poses, or, you know, like how they walk on all fours sometimes.
I think that's like how they want. Like, they put their two front down, like, on their fist, and they like jump up two over or something.
Yeah. See, so you could definitely get him into any kind of poses that you'd want a big gorilla to get into, for sure. But he's gonna take some work to get to the point where he's a figure I could just pick up and play with all the time.
So overall, at the end of the day, when Kong thinks he's Ant-Man, the curtain's closed and it's all said and done.
I think this is an okay figure, but I'm definitely conflicted because I want to like him, but there's a lot of things wrong with him, you know? Like, the whole situation with the joints is very frustrating, and it's taking away a lot of the joy from this figure. But he does look good, and he does have a lot of good articulation, and he has some cool accessories, and there's some good stuff going on here. But man, this thing is just driving me crazy. But I think I like it enough that I'm going to go ahead and put the work into it, because he does have things that I like. And I think once I get it to the point where, like, the joints aren't flopping around and things are set in place and not moving, I think I'll like this figure a lot more. But I don't know. That remains to be seen. I have an idea for the hips. What I'm going to do is use this silicone stuff to kind of fill in the hips, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know. What's the worst that could happen? Being that it's silicone, it'll be soft enough to where it shouldn't, like, hinder the actual movement, but it should keep his hips in place, you know? So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, man, like I said, there's a lot to enjoy here, but there's also a lot to make you want to just throw this figure in the damn garbage. So it definitely shouldn't be like that. In my opinion, I would say this figure it's a failure, because, like, it should be way better than it is. But at the same time, I like it enough to where I think I'm going to try to salvage it, because it's going to be like a cool pocket figure, to be honest with you. I'm going to want to take this guy with me everywhere once I have the joints to where I could actually play with the figure and enjoy it. As it is right now, I'm just kind of like pissed off every time I handle it. But then once I spend some time with it, I'm like, oh man, this thing, it is pretty cool, you know? But like, I can't sit here and recommend that you go out and buy this figure because chances are it's gonna piss you off just like it did me, and you just may not want to spend $90 for a figure that's gonna make you mad unless you put a bunch of work into it. So another thing too is you kind of have to understand that, like, I'm a big fan of gorillas and apes and Caesar and Planet of the Apes and all that stuff. So again, I want to like this. I want to like it even though there are obvious problems with it. So like I said, I'm gonna do my best to get it to the point where I could really enjoy the figure, and you know, it is what it is. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thank you very much to the junior assistant for all her help on this video. We do appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. Peace. So before we get out of here, I kind of wanted to update you on my feelings for this figure because I've spent some time with it, I've made some modifications, and to be completely honest with you, I am really enjoying this King Kong figure. But it took a lot of work to get there, so I can't really recommend that you go out and buy this figure, because if you do, chances are, even if you could overlook the size issue, you're probably still going to be disappointed with this thing. Mostly because of the way the joints come together. That's the biggest problem this figure has. But if you feel like putting some work into it and making the joints work for you, then I think that there's a lot of enjoyment to be had with this figure. And at this point, I'm happy that I have this thing. But let me go ahead and show you exactly what I did. So the first thing I had to take care of was his loose leg. So I went ahead and added a couple layers of super glue to the ball peg. And now it might be a little too tight. So I might even have to work on that a little bit more. But as you can see, it's not flopping around. And another thing you might notice is that the hip isn't really flopping around either. It still moves a little bit, but not as much as it did before. And what I did there was I went ahead and used that silicone stuff that I showed you earlier to fill this in. If you rewind the video back and take a look at the first time I took the hip apart, it's like a big hole. It's pretty much just a hollow piece of plastic. But I went ahead and added that silicone stuff, and it kind of holds it in place. So you don't have to worry about it just kind of flopping around. Another thing I did was glue down these pieces that covered the ball joints and the hips, because originally they were loose, they were flopping around, and it was just another piece of like complications, you know, when it comes to the legs. It's just like all these plastic parts are shifting around, and that just kind of added to it. So I went ahead and glued it down to the ball joint. It did not affect the articulation whatsoever, so I don't know why it didn't just come like that, but for whatever reason they decided to make it a separate piece. So I glued that down. I added that silicone stuff to the hips, and that's pretty much it. You know, once I did that, I was happy with it. And as you can see, the legs are not flopping around. There's still a couple of joints that I need to thicken up a little bit, like the head joint. Well, the alternate head stays on just fine, but the regular head pops off kind of easy. So I still want to fix that. Oh, there we go. Wasn't on all the way before, but now it is. But it still pops off really easy. So I still might want to do something to maybe make this hole smaller so it just pops on and stays. I wish it was just like the alternate head, because this stays on perfectly fine. Yeah, there we go. But I'll leave a link to that silicone stuff in the description below. It's come in handy for me for various little things like this, but I'm happy I had it to do this, because I would have been all pissed off at this figure if I couldn't fix it, you know, because I was excited about this. But right out of the box, it was pretty disappointing. But after putting some work into it, I'm very happy to have this guy. And it's definitely going to be a pocket figure, you know? Because he is fun to mess around with. He's fun to pose around with. It's just a matter of making the joints feel more enjoyable and more sturdy, and just not like pieces of plastic floating around, shifting everywhere, making a mess. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that. I don't want you guys to leave this review thinking I absolutely hated this figure, because that wasn't the case. I just was disappointed in it, and now I'm pretty happy with it. So there you go. Peace.